Marvel Rivals is wildly popular, appears to be around to stay unless it gets the TikTok Chinese treatment where essentially the US government wants to get rid of it because it's in some way affiliated with China. But that said, that's hopefully a concern for another time. This game is, I think, really fun. It's got so many different characters, heroes, villains. Jill, we're going to talk today about 5 different characters that we would love to see in this game. I want to know your ideas in the comments down below for other characters. Are there characters you want to see in Marvel Rivals? What would you want to see them do? Also, characters we mentioned. What moves would you want to see? What would you want to see them do?
So I did want to preface this with the fact that we're not experts on game balancing either, so we're not going to tell you like the exact damage and the exact moves we think these characters should do. This is just a simple outline of what we as gamers think would be fun for fellow gamers and also fans of these characters.
Yeah, because we love these characters. So we'll hop into it here. Be sure to answer the question today. If you enjoy this, leave a like, subscribe. Another way to support the channel is our Fortnite code. Hopefully at some point there will be a Marvel Rivals code. Maybe they'll do something like that. But in the meantime, there you go, and let's hop right into it.
Number 5.
The first one I wanted to mention is Ghost Rider. I think this character works as either a Vanguard or a Duelist, so either more tank or of course as well DPS. It just kind of depends on what they want to do. The reason I say that is because Ghost Rider is a character who can be shot and then spit out bullets. He's kind of otherworldly. So in that way I could see, maybe a tank. But also he's a character who can breathe fire. He has the ability to use a chain as a whip. He can drive.
That's awesome.
I probably wouldn't put him constantly on a flaming motorcycle, but I could see that popping up for a super.
Yeah.
My idea for a super was essentially that he summons his motorcycle out of the ground, hops on it super quick, and then drives around in like figure eights or donuts while whipping his fiery chain.
Oh yeah, and it hits all of the enemies.
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
Especially if it did kind of like a Jeff the Shark thing, because Jeff the Shark can pull you in. What if it could pull you towards it just a little bit, not like into a vortex, but just towards it a little bit, and then it does DPS in this entire, range?
That would be amazing. I feel like that's a very interesting idea for like an ultimate for him.
Well, this is also a character too that, has been playable in different things before, like Marvel vs. Capcom in that series, especially the last 2, 3, and Infinite. But I think in general, he's a very fascinating character. There's different versions of him. You could do Robbie or you could do Johnny.
Or you could have different skins for these people depending on who you want to play as.
Yeah, absolutely. You could do just a general one, and then you could have, like, Spider-Man has a skin for Ben Reilly.
Yeah.
You could do that kind of thing too. But something you pointed out too, I believe, was just the spiritual aspect of this character is interesting. The more he kind of fits into that Doctor Strange side of the Marvel universe where he's not a normal being.
No, he's not. He's very interesting. I would love to just see more about him in what this universe would be, because a lot of the characters in Marvel Rivals have slightly different lore than in the comic books, and I would just absolutely love to see their take on him, because I think it would be really, really fun, and I have loved a lot of the costumes in the game so far, and you have a great opportunity to make some really killer costumes. Get it, killer?
Yeah, I do.
For Ghost Rider.
There's a lot of cool Ghost Rider outfits and different things like that. Yeah, I mean, I would love that. And even, like let's say you did have a different skin. Maybe you're playing usually as Johnny, but you put on the Robbie skin, and maybe instead of the bike coming up, it's just an asset replacement with his car. So his car comes up and he's swinging his, chain out the window and hitting people. Like there's a lot of opportunities to do stuff with this. Another opportunity could be something like the penance stare, where essentially he stares into your soul and he can burn your soul or judge you based off of your sins. This character is sick, by the way. I love Ghost Rider. Tiny little aside, one of my favorite childhood memories is watching the absolutely terrible Nick Cage Ghost Rider movies with my dad. We had so much fun watching these. The second one is honestly probably the definition of god-awful, which really works, in a otherworldly character like that to say it's god-awful. But
that's pretty funny.
They were so fun, with Nick Cage, and I would love to see this character come back.
Number 4. It's the 4th one.
4. So the next one we wanted to mention was Deadpool, and I put him on this list as a duelist simply because Wolverine in the actual game is listed as a duelist.
Which to me is odd.
However, I feel like both him and Wolverine could have worked very well as tank-like Vanguard characters because of their healing regenerative factors and the fact that they can't die very easily. But in the game, Wolverine dies kind of very easily, and his regenerative factor is not great.
I want to point out two things here. First off, if you're good as Wolverine, you're great. People have pointed that out. You know, like there are people who are amazing as Wolverine. For me, his regenerative healing is odd. I personally think it should have been a little different, and you pointed this out too. Wolverine and Deadpool have very strong healing abilities. So to me, it's odd for his healing ability to just kick in as like a 150 or 200 buff one time.
Yeah,
it's
I
just
kind of feel
weird.
like it should be just a small passive buff that happens every once in a while.
I always thought that they should tone down the rage a little bit, because the Berserker rage makes him nuts if you know how to use him in this game. Very good with that. But in general, I thought that, you know, you tone that down and you do a little bit more healing. And the reason we're saying that is because how you balance Deadpool kind of rides a little bit off Wolverine, because Deadpool has an even stronger healing ability than Wolverine does.
Yes, and Deadpool and Wolverine are very similar with their regenerative powers.
With Deadpool's just being way stronger, yeah.
And with Wolverine, instead of having his knives just be on his back that he pulls out like little swords, he actually has them in his hands. You know, so I feel like Wolverine and Deadpool would play very similarly.
With one exception, which is that Deadpool's a big gun guy.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
whereas
true, that's
Wolverine
true.
is not necessarily. So I mean, but that also fits into a hero shooter.
Oh, that's
a guy
true.
literally with guns. I mean, come on, that's pretty easy to do.
I feel like Deadpool would be perfect for this game, but they need to fix the regenerative healing factor thing to make it a little bit more balanced for the user, but also the enemies as well. Because you don't want it to be too OP where like you can't kill that person.
Right.
But you also don't want it to be so sucky. And right now, I feel like the regenerative healing factor for Wolverine is kind of sucky.
Yeah, I feel like tone down that Berserker rage ability where he just gets super strong during that, and then the rest of the time he's super easy to pick off. I feel like if you toned that down a little bit and just added a little more passive healing. I mean, like, what's the point of putting Deadpool in if he doesn't heal?
Yeah.
You know, then he's not Deadpool, right?
No, then he's not Deadpool.
Then he's just like Deadpool from the second movie with the mutant collar on or something.
Yeah,
Like,
then he's just
Cancer Man.
Yeah, he's just Cancer Guy with gun.
Cancer Man with gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that you got to be careful how you do it, because you pointed this out. There are some characters that if you put them in here and you have to nerf them so hard just for them to be here, then why are they here?
Yes.
And you said that to me the other day, and I agree with that. You got to be careful with that, and that is something that I think some characters have had to go through. Wolverine is one, I would say, with some of his abilities. Another one is Spider-Man, where if you know how to play Spider-Man, you can be amazing, and he's really annoying because he's way too fast, but Spider-Man would not have 250 health.
No,
Like,
he would be a little bit more beefy than
This
that.
dude can withstand a lot of punishment, and he has 250 health in the game.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, we're not experts on balancing, but even with Spider-Man, I've always said, tone down the speed a little so he's not broken, but increase the health a little.
Kind of like how Venom plays.
Yeah, a little bit, but I don't know. I mean, again, people who are like hardcore competitive, they're gonna nitpick that and tear it apart. That's just kind of my opinion.
Number three.
Number three. The next one on our list that we wanted to mention is Black Cat, and I think she would be really good as DPS.
Felicia Hardy is an amazing character. She's unfortunately relegated a lot of times to Spidey's rebound in the comics, especially with mainline Amazing Spider-Man, which is a shame, but she herself is a great character. She can play off of Spider-Man super well with banter and quips, but also she works just as her own person, you know, with... I think a lot of people look at her and they think she's just Catwoman, but she's not. Yeah, there's some similarities there, but I feel like you could do a lot with her moves. You could do a lot with her agility, especially.
But it's also fun to play with her outfits and make her kind of have like feline, sexy outfits too.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody loves a Nico girl, and Black Cat is the definition of Nico girl.
Well, and also they're not afraid to do that in this game. Like, they're not afraid to show a little skin and do characters that would show a little skin. We saw that recently with the Malice skin for Sue Storm.
I know, that one's really cool. I definitely got that one.
And a lot of people on Twitter were just bitching about it, like, why do we have to look at this? And it's like, yeah, we get it. You have like the developmental libido of a child, and you can't understand that people like sexuality. We understand, but I think it's interesting that they are willing to get into these characters and actually do stuff with them. In terms of moves, I would make her more athletic. I would make her jump around a little bit more. I don't have a lot of ideas other than that.
I would give her moves kind of like, you know how Catwoman in Arkham City, when you play as her, she moves around kind of like a cat in a lot of ways. I would have Black Cat move around a lot like a cat too in this game. You know, because I feel like that is a very interesting characteristic for a cat-like hero / anti-hero. And I would also like to see her use her claws to hurt people, because I think that would be really fun, kind of like Wolverine, except obviously she doesn't have a healing factor, so she's not as insane.
And hers are more just on her fingertips.
Yes.
Usually, yeah. I think that there's a lot you could do with this character, especially for someone who's on the Spider-Man family roster in a way.
Number two, the numero dos.
Silver Surfer is a character I would love to see in the game. He's not a character who appears in a lot of video games for whatever reason, but he is interesting, and, you know, we were looking for someone who could be support. Silver Surfer can use the power cosmic to heal wounds. They can be both his or someone else's, so I feel like that would work great right there.
Yeah, I feel like having another fun healer to play as in the game is always really enjoyable, and Silver Surfer could fit that role amazingly, as well as being somebody who I think a lot of fans would be very excited to see, since he's not in enough, in my opinion. He could have some really awesome costumes. In fact, you could have one costume where he's entirely golden, and he could be like the Golden Surfer. I know this sounds dumb, but I thought that might be
Why'd you make
fun.
that up all of a sudden?
I don't know, I just thought that would be kind of fun.
There's a lot of different things you could do with him. I mean, even if you wanted to, I don't know if they'd ever do this, but there is also a female Silver Surfer, which I believe is the one they are adapting for the MCU, if the reports are true. So even if you wanted to do an outfit where the asset is different and maybe he's a little skinnier and just a woman and just have a different voice actor, I don't know if they'd be willing to do that effort though. But in general, Silver Surfer has a lot of interesting powers. I could see him moving around the map kind of like Luna Snow does, where he's on his surfboard.
Yeah.
Except, you know, where Luna does almost skating on the ground.
Yeah, she does ice skating on the ground,
He could kind of do surfing on the ground. And I think that would be interesting. Now, in terms of his powers, he is extremely powerful. So you would have to do some tweaking of this. I mean, the guy's been shown to cure plagues. You know, like, so you don't want him to be so OP of a healer that no one can die, obviously.
Yeah.
But I do think that he does fit a role of someone who could do damage and healing.
Yeah, I think he could be really interesting, and I think he could have some really interesting moves, and I would love to see what they would do with a character like that, because I feel like that could make more people want to join the support team, you know? And I even though this game is a lot better with it than a lot of other games, I still feel like a lot of times when you're on a team, not enough people want to play as a healer. And even though this game is so fun, they make healers so much more fun than most other games in my opinion, I just think that Silver Surfer might help push a little bit more people into wanting to do that healer role.
Well, especially when you have support and healers that are getting banned because they are, quote unquote, too good to be in competitive. It's like, well, it would be interesting to have another one that, you know, maybe could both fill a role in casual play, like quick play, but also in competitive play.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Number one.
Splat. Last but not least, we have Rogue, and I am so excited for this one because Rogue is one of my favorite X-Men characters ever, and I absolutely love her, and she is so yachted up, everybody, that she has to have the biggest butt in the game if they put her in. I'm just saying. Honestly, she should have a power where she bounces her butt off of people, because that would be perfect.
You are ridiculous. You're a ridiculous human being. I think that in terms of Rogue, you could go two different ways. Like, is she DPS? Is she Vanguard? Is she a little bit of a mix, you know, in a different way between Duelist and Vanguard, like basically DPS and tank? And the reason I say that is because in the comics especially, and also in the 90s, a lot of these different things, you had her absorbing a lot of the powers of Carol, Captain Marvel at the time, and essentially becoming Captain Marvel 2. Like, I mean, she's not exactly, but, you know, she could fly, and she could flip a tank, and she could do all this crazy stuff. In that way, I'm like, if you wanted to go that direction, she could be more of a tank. And in the other direction, she could be someone who maybe is a little more DPS, and I guess my question would be how you would have her play. You had an idea where it's kind of like you have her absorb someone's abilities.
Yeah, so what I thought you could possibly do is, you know how Scarlet Witch can absorb people's life force in the game? I thought it might be interesting if you could have a similar button for Rogue where she absorbs whoever she's targeted on their kind of like their life force, and it hurts them a little bit, kind of like when she touches people, it actually hurts. And then she's able to use one of their control bindings. So like, let's say she did it to Captain America, or no, let's not say Captain America, because then she'd have to steal his shield.
Well, actually, that happens in the 90s in the reboot of the 90s.
That would be funny.
Or the continuation of the 90s show. So I mean, you could certainly do something like that.
Let's say she does it to Venom, and then she could shoot out a black tendril afterwards. You know, something like that, but she could only do it for a short amount of time, and then she'd keep doing that with other characters and using their moves.
It does become interesting, though, because I believe a lot of times, you know, it would depend on who you're doing it to. Like, you might have to take some liberties. Like, if you just touch the symbiote, you don't get a symbiote inside of you.
No.
So, I mean, you might have to make some gameplay concessions to make this work.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just keep that in mind.
Yeah, you definitely have to take some liberties, but I think she could have a really interesting gameplay style that would A, be difficult and fun for like veteran players, and B, she could have a really interesting ultimate, because Loki, a lot of times he can do other people's ultimate.
Well, he basically
really
can
fun.
become that character in a way too.
Yeah.
So it's just like a different version of that.
And I think it would be really interesting if you could have Rogue possibly do other people's ultimate. Like, she touches Scarlet Witch and then she can do the pure chaos ultimate sort of thing, if she has her ultimate ready, of course.
Well, and I mean, to be honest, I just want to see the Southern drawl.
I want to see that
I want
too.
Southern baddie Rogue in the game, especially if you gave her her Savage Land outfit, which I think you've seen. It's the one where it's basically torn to shreds.
Oh yeah, definitely. We need that. We need her like classic hot green outfit too, where it like shows off her butt real good. And I want her fluffy hair, you know, like where her white hair is kind of fluffy on the front, kind of like from the 80s.
Right, we're talking like basically comics Rogue, not Anna Paquin Rogue. I believe that's her name from the.
No shade to her, but she is the least interesting Rogue in my opinion.
Well, I think the problem is a lot of people think Rogue is uninteresting because they watch the X-Men movies, so they think Rogue is just a professional victim, except in like one film.
Yeah.
And Rogue isn't. Like, she's a go-getter. She kicks ass. She's got a lot of power beneath her belt. She's really cool. And she's the one, by the way, I was going to tell you, that was in a data leak. So she's the one.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if it's confirmed or not, and I don't do leaks that often on this channel anymore because I've gotten strikes from before.
Guys, if she's put in the game, I'm gonna shit my pants.
I think that she's a great one too. I don't know, let us know what you think of this list. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe. Jill, what's some other ways that people can support us other than our Fortnite code?
Oh, well, first of all, our Fortnite code is DJAY123 if you want to use that. But then we also have a really awesome shop, and I would love to explain to you guys what that is. So I make resin products, and you're probably like, ugh, why do I need a coaster, or why do I need a keychain? That's boring. Well, you know what's cool about it is I will take damaged comic books and damaged manga that stores can't sell because they're going to throw them out because they're too damaged for people to buy, and I make resin products out of them, so that way it preserves pictures, it preserves different art, it's a transformative kind of artwork type thing.
Yeah, we're not printing it out off the internet. We're taking something that exists that was damaged, and some people say, well, why would I want damaged art too? And that's not what we're doing.
We use the good ones.
Yeah, say that you have a comic and the cover is torn off and the back pages are waterlogged. We will go through it and find salvageable paper out of it, help turn it into something new, and then recycle the rest of it.
And keep it out of the landfills.
Yeah.
Which I think is really important, because a lot of that old ink is terrible for the environment.
And a lot of it does not get recycled.
No,
I mean,
it doesn't.
As someone who unfortunately has worked with comic shops before and gone through their stuff, a lot of them don't have infinite recycling. A lot of things just end up in the trash.
They can't pay for recycling a lot of times because of the profit margins, and you have to pay for it in Minnesota.
Or they can't pay for big enough.
Yeah.
You know, so like they'll have a full dumpster of recycling and then a bunch of other stuff will just go straight in the trash. And we take that and turn it into something new, which I think is fun.
Don't worry, we're not picking out of dumpsters. I promise you.
Not yet.
I promise you the keychains do not smell like dumpster in the mail.
We have not hit that low. But
However, I also have handmade jewelry, which is really awesome, and you can use code DJAY123 for 10% off your order. And hey, isn't that the same code as your Fortnite code? Yeah, it is.
Get out of my house. Why'd this man break into my house and ask this question?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so we hope you enjoyed it. Have a fantastic day. And as always, everyone, stay shway.